Shedding has affected a number of pupils who are writing their matric examinations in various schools around Cape Town. Brona Hammond, spokesperson for the Western Cape Education Department, joins us now from our Cape Town studio. Of course, looking at how matriculants have been affected. Brona, thanks for joining us this afternoon. It actually becomes quite a travesty, especially when you received assurance from Eskom as recent as yesterday that there would in fact not be any load shedding, and to find out that load shedding was implemented while students were writing their exams this morning.
Yes, it was certainly unexpected for us, but we do have protocol in place, thankfully, for any eventuality, including load shedding. However, we were not expecting it. We had discussed with them yesterday. We got an early warning this morning that there could be a possibility of load shedding, and then news just before the exam that stage 2 load shedding was underway.
And from what I understand, I mean, the actual load shedding took place from about 10 a.m. and then the lights went back on about 12 p.m. Later on this afternoon. So then in that case, does that mean that pupils were sitting for that 2 hours in class waiting for something to happen, especially with the computer applications technology paper?
Yes, so many of our learners had, at 36 centres, they had started the exam. Thankfully, we got a system in place where the content that they've already done in the exam is automatically saved, so they did not lose any content, thankfully. But then once the electricity goes out and the computer shut down, then they are quarantined in the exam room. Obviously, we need to also protect the integrity of the exams. So they're quarantined in the exam room, and then once the electricity is back on and a technician has been around to check the computers, then they can restart their examination. But yes, of course, you know, this is a very stressful time for any of our NSC learners, and to have this happen on the first day is quite devastating and stressful. And we've still got learners right now currently catching up, because at some of our centres we have a double take. So, you know, these learners will be finishing late tonight, so we also need to consider them walking home or making travel arrangements tonight.
Brona, let's be realistic between you and I. You say that the learners were actually quarantined for that 2 hours. We both know that during that 2 hours, it means that they can actually fall vulnerable, or the integrity of the paper becomes very vulnerable, because you cannot expect for learners to be sitting for 2 hours and nothing gets exchanged or nothing gets said between them. And I'm not taking away from the integrity of learners, but this is just the reality that we live in. How do you ensure that indeed messages are not being passed down, that examination answers are not being passed down, and therefore compromising the very same integrity of the paper?
Well, that is very important to us, and we have invigilators at each of the centres ensuring that that does not happen. At some centres it was only down for about half an hour, some of the downtime, but no, of course, we have to ensure the integrity of the examinations, and invigilators are there monitoring the situation. All our districts were informed of that. We had our circuit managers, all our exam monitors, all out in force today, ensuring that the exams weren't compromised.
Does that mean that going forward, particularly in the Western Cape, you'll then be implementing a mechanism where you will operate under the assumption that there will be load shedding throughout the course of the examination, just to avoid another situation where you, as you're saying, that you actually caught off guard this morning?
Well, our main concern right now is tomorrow's examination, because that is also a computer-based examination. It's IT. So we have about 900 learners in the Western Cape writing tomorrow. It's a much smaller cohort than today, thankfully. However, we have informed Eskom where those centres are situated, and we are hoping that they can do us a favour and to ensure that actually those specific areas aren't affected by the load shedding and maybe delayed in time in terms of the schedule. So we are in discussions with Eskom, and we are really hoping that we won't have further delays tomorrow.
Tell me this, are you able to put pressure on Eskom so that indeed there is no load shedding implemented? I'm going to tell you why I'm asking this question, because it actually compromises the integrity of the entire examination process. And number two, you can imagine how much pressure it puts your learners under. Every single learner deserves the right to write their matric exam, but to be put with the added pressure, it's just not fair, and I don't think it's even right. So exactly how much pressure are you inserting on Eskom to ensure that all these kids get given the fair amount of time and the right amount of capacity and resourcing to write the examinations?
Well, in previous years, we've never had a problem in most recent years, and we have worked well with Eskom and the various municipalities in terms of their grids. But yes, of course, tomorrow we are all putting pressure. I think every education department across the country, a number of them have been affected. I've seen some of those reports. But and also we are talking to DBE and want some pressure nationally in terms of trying to assist us. So obviously we cannot talk on behalf of Eskom in terms of what's happening at their power stations and what is actually required. However, we can only do all but appeal for these learners who have really worked hard for 12 years to get to this point. And as I said earlier, it's a very stressful situation already, and then having to be thrown into this is quite traumatizing.
Yeah, I can definitely empathize with that, having been one individual that actually had to write matric some donkey years ago. Brona, we're going to leave it there for this afternoon. Brona Hammond, spokesperson for the Western Cape Education Department, giving us the latest.